Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sat means truth and logos means a study or science. Sattology means a science of truth, a study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means coming from the root Sanskrit word, which means science or study of fake lie or imagination. Now, try calling mythology to any churchgoer or anyone else, say biblical mythology, you'll understand how negative they take the word mythology. But it's very common for the Western academics to call every other native history as mythology. So, with that being said, it's very clear that mythology is a negative, has negative connotations. So, English words are made for use, like how to use it, and the connotations play a more important role. I have today. It's a very going to be a very special event. I have a guest who is going to interview me. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Priti Pundir.
Thank you so much, Aditya. I mean, we had reversal of roles, but nevertheless, it's always nice to start the way we always do. Good morning, viewers, and thank you so much for joining. And today we are not meeting for any kind of a discussion, but we are here to know a little more about Aditya and his work. Now, Aditya has always been interviewed by other channels, but never has he been interviewed by his own journey on Sattology channel. So I was very keen, and in fact I got the privilege of interviewing him and to know a little more about him. So Aditya, shall we start?
Yes.
Okay, so let me start with asking a very basic question which everybody is keen to know. How I mean Give us a little insight on your journey, as to how you started and where you started, your adhyatmic journey. So tell us a little about that.
Yeah, it's a very deep question, and I think no one has asked me this question so far. But I did write in my Amazon. If you look at the authors central, I did write over there briefly. Uh, Started with my grandmother, and also everyone knows that my father died when I was 6 years old, and started with my grandmother because my grandmother used to tell me stories of Dhruv and Narsingha. And so at the age of 15, when I read Bhagavad Puran for the first time, the same stories were coming, and uh, and I was connected to uh, ashram and Madhva Sampradaya, and then gradually that same thing started building up as I was trained in an under a guru, and at the age of you can say, so by the age of, at that time I used to go to libraries a lot, libraries, and study and look for same Prahlad and Dhruv. And then in that process, I found out the like the seventh canto Srimad Bhagavatam. So that continued for a very from a very early age. And when I got my diksha by Guru in, and then it became totally different after that, because there we were methodically trained, and most of the teachings were initially appeared to be dogma because you do not understand the facts of everything. It takes years, just like a child to become a adult. It takes a lot of maturity, a lot of inputs from a village, and similarly the this journey, and then people take it a very serious journey, like adhyatma means very special, and actually everyone should be adhyatmic only. That's what the human is supposed to be. And adhyatma just means answering whys, why. Like most of the small children will ask why. And so grandmother's talk were like, one time I was talking to my choti nani, now she was no more, Kunti, and I asked her a very simple question, that who gives mukti? And I was challenging her. I was not trying to ask her to
Question.
inquire. I was challenging
Yes.
them, who gives mukti? Because I thought all these things is nonsense. Even though I've been studying, but I thought it's a very difficult question. And mukti, it looks like a psychedelic thought process. Who wants mukti? I was very happy in my life. So then she said, Mukunda gives mukti. A very instructive answer that only Mukunda gives. And then she was quiet. And then, so like these kind of questions, like for example, the Narsinga Prahlad, one of the fascinating stories from Bhagavad Puran, people may or may not know, but how Narsinga goes out of the way to save Prahlad. For a child, it's a very powerful story because the children, they always seek protection, and I had no protection.
Yes.
And so Narsinga's story was a very strong story because there is in Sanatan Dharma, there is a Vishnu avatar who is only protecting children. And I have seen like, so that story was very, very powerful and stayed with me till date. Dhruv Maharaj's story was also very powerful. But when I actually read the Bhagavatam parts, it's even becomes better. Like he says very clearly that Vishnu tells him, sorry, he tells Vishnu that I was looking for broken pieces of glass, but I got a diamond. So it's like a 5-year-old boy telling Vishnu, very instructive story again. So these are kind of stories they actually built up. And then when I started writing the books, purposely I wanted to write books for a simple reason because there are a lot of, first of all, when I wrote my first book, it was a conversation of Prabhupada with someone. I think in one of the purports he writes that eh, I mean his books are the more clearest for any English speaking person. Prabhupada's books are the clearest, like the clean way to build a basis, foundation on it. There are a lot of things which we may agree or we may not agree. Some words over there, not the theme or the view. We cannot agree, disagree. And Madhvacharya's disciples' writings are also phenomenal. Some people may always get into the thing that this Sampradaya Vishesh, but these Acharyas are not Sampradayas Vishesh. They make up the Sampradaya. So they are above the Sampradaya sometimes also. Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya's writings also I read. But they're not good translations for Shankaracharya's writings. Not good. Unless you know how to read the original Sanskrit or sometimes even Malayalam. Other than that, there is no good write-up on by Sankaracharya. So Sanskrit is the most important you can read over there. So when I was reading them, theme is common across all of them. And so therefore it makes it, so therefore there's one purport of Prabhupada which says mythology destroyed the identity of Hindus because they were so much campaigned with the mythology that they're weak, they are small, and now gradually everything is coming out that that the Hindus did fight against the Mughal invasion. Hindus did fight very well. In fact, that's why today is still a Hindu country. What happened to Iraq, Iran? What happened to Pakistan? What happened to Pakistan? Would be a Hindu country even today, unless it was the Mahatma Gandhi and other politicians did the bad job, and the British did a bad job. So, most of the today's Pakistan's Muslims, today's Muslims of, I mean, the Pakistani Muslims at that time in 47 did not want independence. It was the Indian Muslims wanted independence. So, Indian Muslims got to stay here as well as in Pakistan also. There were two countries now. So, anyway, so these are the things which are mythology, and there was no word for it, opposite of it. So then we had to create it because the Western world is a world of terms, definitions. So they created monotheism, pantheism. They also don't understand. They make it up as they grow. So like if somebody doesn't understand unless you live here with them, you live with them, not with the Indian Americans. You live with them. You don't get it because their way of thinking is totally different. It's very biblical thinking they have. It's black and white, and they're waiting for zombies to come. They want somebody else to rescue them. It's a very charismatic culture, charisma is a more important thing. And in our Sanatan Dharma culture, it's more karma based, actions based. So many of the gurus and acharyas may not dress well, but we touch their feet. We go out, they touch their feet. And for them, they've made up many definite anthropomorphism and polytheism. All these different terms are made complex terms. Now, when we're doing research on mythology versus ethology, then we find out all these terms were meant to colonize people, just to prove to their own people they're superior. And that's what is called American exceptionalism. Because see, what happened was all the Europeans, because they are close to Asia, they were used to Asian influences on them. Like the Buddhism has a very strong influence on Europe, and therefore they usually they are a little bit mellow. But America is like an island. It's like a Lanka in the middle of the ocean. So now you have so America has retained the nature of the old colonialist powers, old original ones. So it has become more arrogant. It now it is getting mellowed down because the European American population is mixed up now. It's gone down to 51% or 52%. Everyone is mixed. So that is a little bit changed now, but still that original idea that we are special, we are big, we are better, and we have bigger roads, and we have bigger institutions, we have, and now everything is coming out that so the uh, to debunk all these things is very difficult. So I focus only one area, that I will just focus on Shastra and Mahabharat, Ramayana, and I have a lot of friends, and it is less controversial also, and it is less political also, and it is what is needed actually. And for Americans also to
Yes.
learn is easy. So my books are very simple English actually, other than the last one, Pandavas.
So, Adityaji, thank you so much. I mean, I understand your childhood has been very tough, and when we are talking with you, the flow is such that from one place to the other, and we just carry on. but but I do understand. I'll come back to where you are. Where you left. Once I touch upon other points which I am absolutely focused in getting out of you, because you are very shy in talking about yourself. Anyway, so I do understand you started at a young age, and with all this knowledge that you acquired and you absorbed at different levels at different ages, you decided to share this knowledge with everybody, and that is how Sattology came into existence. And so did many of your books, like the Hindu Bible, One Arrow, One Kill, Gold, Glory, and God, and Yudhishthir, the Pran of Dharma. So, how many books have you written, Adityaji?
Total actually 9, but 2 editions for India are special. There are little bit changes in them. So
Okay,
we can call it
and which
technically
is
11.
okay, and your latest book, the Pandavas, the Famous Five,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Okay. So now I wanted to also touch base regarding this new edition that you have come up with, and I've got an opportunity to go through it through Kindle. And I wanted to understand that we have often heard about Arjun and his skills, his bow and arrow skills, his war skills, but what inspired you to write dedicatedly about Yudhishthir and also about the five Pandavas? I mean, what inspired you to do that?
So when I had given my book Yudhishthir, uh, Samrat Yudhishthir, the greatest emperor, to be for to be printed in India. And so India is called the Yudhishthir Pran Dharma. It has some changes from the American edition. It has little bit more difficult words. It has more, preface in every chapter, and then such and concluding words, which is not the American way of writing. American way just starts with a I was doing this, I was having coffee, then I saw this, and then I went in. This is a typical way an American author writes. And in between,
Yeah,
he will say, I observed. It's all about the charisma. He's only talking about himself. And because that's the way their society, our society is not built on charisma. So now when I was doing it, so we had a conversation between me and Dr. Mahinder, which you know, and the publisher, Sandeep Deo. And then in the conversation, Sandeep Deo asked me that you must write something about Pandavas. There's no book on Pandavas, total. And to write about Pandavas is a very difficult job. It was a challenge. So I was a little bit of confusion for a few days. So where to begin? Because everybody knows about five Pandavas very much, but I had to bring out their characteristic. Like Sadev, people think of Sadev as a very weak person who's just taking care of. This is general impression which you see in the Mahabharat TV,
Yes.
that he is
Yes.
just busy taking care of cows and Nakul is taking care of horses and they're fighting with
Yeah.
swords. Very few people know that he conquered the southern direction on his own. And southern direction from Hastinapur is considered the most difficult direction. If you remember Ramayana Treta Yuga, is Ravana also there? And he alone was capable of defeating all the Kauravas. He was so strong.
Yes.
He may not
Yes.
have done it, but he was capable. Like he had the capacity.
Mm.
And all the five Pandavas were called Mahabaho, the equal mighty brothers. They were all trained in all kinds of weapon systems. They were trained in Niti, Nyaya, Ved, Vidanga, everything they were trained in from the childhood. Same as with the Nakul. Nakul, little bit negative thing. People don't. For me, it's a very positive thing, but some people have not emphasized enough that he was the best looking Pandava. In fact, when he goes out for after the Ratsu Yagya, they will go to the forest. He had to cover his whole body in ashes so that people don't stop
Mm.
because of his looks. So those kind of things were not there, but also he was a great warrior. So the to how to bring out those characteristics out, because you and in any conversation of Mahabharat, all the five Pandavas are there. Only when the Yaksha has taken away some of them, or there are two, three incidents in Mahabharat where the Pandavas get divided, only Yudhishthir is left. Other than that, all the five are together. Very difficult to separate them out because they are in every single discussion, they are participating, and Yudhishthir had a very cooperative way of functioning. He would ask his brother's opinions, and then all of them you would speak on every single issue. And whether it's speaking Maitreya or Vyasa or anyone else, all of them would speak, and including Draupadi, every single incident, very difficult to separate them out. But in one of my future books of Mahabharata, I'm going to cover Draupadi, and I'll only cover the female characters of Mahabharata in one of the future books. And so
Excellent.
I had to put some stories also in between and histories. But what makes this book interesting is because my focus is always on geography. So where were they born? Which part? What is the map of that area? So those are the things which are really focused on this book. So it will be as informative or popular as the one arrow one kill.
The factual data.
Yeah.
The factual data. Okay. So, Aditya ji, in your book, you have mentioned that each character represents different people and different situations in life, right? But there are many people who think that these sacred books are a myth, just a story told by a storyteller. So, what do you have to say to that and to them?
So that's a good question. And for many people who don't believe in Mahabharata or Ramayana, for them it will be a shock now because I have given geographical proofs of their locations, and locations are changing based on their movement. Now, if there was a drama written, and people may think that some characters were moving and that geography was thrown in, but the exact movement and so much details of every conversation and so many witnesses of every conversation is not possible because all those places are connected to, like, for example, they crossing the Godavari river. Now Godavari is a very old name. They also crossing the Godavari river, and they are also crossing Tamarparni. Sadev crosses Tamarparni, still there Tamarparni. And so geographical locations, I'm talking, when I say geography, I say the mountains. It's like going south of India, north of India. Now, so these make it very, very real. Like it's almost like you can match what they're saying, which direction they're looking, with a particular uh, geographical marker. Like I'll give you one example of Dwarka. One of my In this book I have covered Dwarka in detail. That Dwarka
Yeah.
was actually 12 by 8 yojana, and somebody was telling me on Twitter, I think it is going on, that that one yojana is, I took it a very basic measurement mile, but somebody was telling me it's 12.7 kilometer. Better, even better for me, because then it becomes exactly 144 kilometers. 144 kilometers if it is 12, but I just calculated by 8 miles, so it is almost like 96 miles by 64 miles. That's a dimension of Dwarka. And then you verify with a Google map or Google Earth or NOAA satellites, which are available only to Americans, actually, by the way. Anyone who can go to American library and you can check out those maps. Any American library will have it. And you can get a printout as well as soft copy of the image also if you ask a librarian. So I use those informations. I did not use any special satellites, but those are powerful enough. The Google Maps are built. Google Maps have to hide many things because of the Indian government regulations, so you cannot see many things from India. But sitting in the US, I can see all of them. You'll be shocked what Americans can see about India from the sky. So
Very interesting.
that was a very interesting thing for me to know, and that's why I'm sure Indian government is changing the access to Google in India and controlling it.
Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah. Okay, so yes, these are very interesting facts that you're telling us. The specific how the mention has been there and yojanas, and then you could take out the entire area of that place, and you can prove it that they're talking about this particular place. So that's fantastic. But in your book, you've also mentioned about the sophisticated military and strategic planning during the times of Mahabharat, right?
Yes.
Are there any specific incidents connected which prove that the planning was more advanced than our even from our current times also? I mean, it was more advanced than our current times also.
See, the first is the weapons. See, we today have only fire weapons or astra, we call
Yes.
it. Like we throw weapons through. See, platforms we throw the weapons are different than the weapon itself. So people may use dhanush barn and use the mantra, but it can cool things down instead of heating it up. And this is uh, so different kind of water weapon, fire weapon. Then there is a so only we know fire right now. And like we say now, laser is again a fire weapon because your concentrated energy point you're using it. So in terms of weapons, and generally, unfortunately, weapons development is tied to the growth of the material growth of the civilization. Unfortunately, the people are scared of removing dollar from their usage as a reserve currency because there is an American nuclear missile right there. So it will affect you. What happened with Gaddafi, Libya. So the weapons were definitely more advanced. Secondly, the geography was much better known to them because Arjun could easily cross Himalaya without hurting any of his soldiers. So they knew the passes. And that is also a fact that Arjun was born and Pandavas were born in the upper parts of Himalaya. And there's a very interesting story about Gandhamadhan mountains. Gandhamadhan, that was the biggest confusion for me. Where is Gandhamadhan? Where is Mandar? Where is Meru? Same, and there is no contradiction between Valmiki Ramayana and Mahabharat in terms of geographical uh, information. There is no difference, and that also builds up your faith that the same thing is being told to you again, again. Like the Shaloba Nadi in Mahabharat, in Ramayana is called Shadoba Nadi in Mahabharata. There's just a letter difference, but they all refer to Uttar Kuru. that Uttar Kuru starts from north of that area. So now, which is again on the east direction of Meru Parvat, and on the west, on the little bit southwest of Meru Parvat, is the Mandar mountain. And so Kubera, meeting Kubera. Now people know a lot about Kubera, that he lives in Tibet, Kailash Mansarovar, and all those areas. But it's a large area they travel, and and the and it will be a good exercise. People read my book Pandavas. It will be a good exercise for them to go search for Kuber. Actually, we may not meet him because he meets on his own. Even the Pandavas were not able to meet him unless he allowed himself to show them. And Pandavas very qualified for that. So all these different areas, they really intrigue you. And and then I did a research, and then I also did a search on every single acharyas, every single word on these Pandava. And then I found out that there is a verse by Ramanujacharya worshipping the five Pandava. I did not know that before. So these are the things which you discover on when you're writing. And then since my focus was geography, there are, like, for example, military, you asked me, movement. First of all, the movement. So Arjun went, so so Arjun, when he's going north, they're defeating the enemies or collecting taxes, and they're adding their enemy into their own. So by the time they're consistently increasing their armies as they're growing north. So by the time they reach the final destination, the army is so huge, and so they redistribute the army, and wherever they go, they set up the temple. So the obviously military movement and military management is on a much larger scale, because today we have airplanes we use. At that time, we were not using airplanes. Arjun did not use airplanes, but Bhim and on the east side and the north, Pandavas did use Ghatotkach as an airplane. Ghatotkach flew in the sky. So, those things make it strategic wise more advanced than us today. And also, they were very clear. They were not confused like today. So today, the humanity has the shackles of the left and trying to look good, not be good, look good. They were not worried about looking good or be. They were just doing what is according to dharma, or be good, that kind of thing. So that is also freedom. They had more freedom than today. So today people are more worried about social media and image, and they were not worried about that, because when they're very clear, and also they're very clear on giving dand, very clear, like who needs to be punished. That confusion was not there. So I would say yes, they were a little bit better than today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, this gives a lot of clarity. Like even in the book when we were reading. So I thought this would be a very good point of discussion, because I'm sure there are other people who would be reading your book and thinking about these things. And when we discuss with you, there is more clarity of thought. Once we have a discussion. Okay. Then there was another very important topic which you touched. You mentioned that eating habits, which were promoted by the Western culture, has actually promoted unhealthy living, right? And you mentioned that cow killing has a direct impact on the well-being of humanity, and there are many evidences. So I would want you to kindly elaborate on those as well.
See, even in the US, killing of cows came with the European settlers mostly. So earlier, and I'm talking about slaughterhouses kind of killing, because that's what they used to do in France and southern England. So from French slaughterhouses went to southern, then Spanish slaughterhouses. This is a European culture of killing cows large scale, because it's just a like there was a food shortage, and I don't justify anything in any way, because cow is the most useful animal. It gives milk, and you can have cream, and you can have protein from many other alternative sources than the flesh. So it started European disease, like Native Americans culture in my earlier book, Gold, Glory, and God. I'd covered that yes, they did sometimes kill bisons because bison is like a wild buffalo, very huge body, and it was so much larger than the Native American population in some parts of the country. They did kill them, but not in such large scale because bisons were also sacred to them because they used to till their land. But in case of Europeans, they had nothing sacred because like I told you, that the Vatican brainwashed them to just thinking that the humans have a dominion over matter. Now it's going to bite them hard as society becomes more dharmic because the more and Buddhist influence, and it's going to bite them hard. And so now they are defending themselves all over the place, including social media. Now they're defensive. Yeah, no, 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 we are not animals, social animal like this, and all these theories the church promoted. So yes, cow killing has a karmic equivalent to is almost living a poison, a million units concentrated poison in a pill, and like you can dry up a lake, and that whatever is left of the lake you put in a capsule and drink it. That's the kind of karmic reaction, and also unscientific, unenvironment healthy. You can see how much a pound of protein in a cow costs you. So I'm totally against that, and that's why I wrote over there that in my book that it is the single biggest cause for the decline of morality, compassion, cleanliness because of cow killing. I'm convinced
Absolutely.
with that. I'm not even just wrote it. I'm convinced. I can see, and I have the cow in the house also. I know in my backyard, so I know how beautiful
Yes.
animal she is. More beautiful than my dog. Some Americans won't like it, but yes, I have to tell you, it's more useful than the dog, and more useful. Even though
And
dog has a different purpose, he protects my house.
yes, and even health-wise, it's not advisable to have meat and flesh because we are not made to have such kind of food. We were not made that way. So I completely am of the same opinion here. Aditya, you'll have to tell me if we are moving away from time. Just give me a heads up before I go overboard. Okay. So,
6 minutes
okay,
more.
let me ask you.
My interview.
Uh,
I hate to give my
yes. Okay. So, I'll quickly ask which has been your favorite book? May I know
all
and
are my
why?
favorite as an author. All are favorite, but yes, it's a journey. Like
Special
when
to
you
your heart.
it's a journey. Like always, the first book will always be special because the
Yes.
that's where you wrote. And Karma is a bitch is very instructive, very funny title. Is very instructive. So all are important for me, but I would say that you grow as an author, and many people help me in growing as an author. When they edit my books, the only person who has edited my books is Dr. Mahendra Thakur. No one has done it. I edit my own books, and so Pandavas is very mature. Pandavas, Gold, Glory, and God, and One Arrow, One Kill. And I'm working on the next one now.
Okay. And can we know the about the next one now that you have mentioned?
It's from mindlessness to mindfulness.
Oh, lovely. I love the topic. I love the topic. I think I will be the first one to read it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question because I am not sure. You told me 6 minutes. So, one last question I would like to ask. You have been running this Sattology channel, right? And you've been writing books. But in current times, what do you think is a better mode for reaching out to people? I mean, do you think uh, is it through books or is it through Sattology? What does the future hold, in your opinion?
See the Sattology channel. We cannot discuss everything because of the social media. We cannot go deep into any topic because of all the public perceptions and all kinds of things. And books are definitely more important than any social media and the channel itself, uh, and social media accounts, any Facebook, anything. Books are very much important. Obviously they are helpful tools in reaching out, and we have not grown as good as we would like to be, as fast as would like to be as compared to other channels. Now coming to the what is the real thing where how people will gain, is through organizing the small courses that we have, 12 session courses we have. I think that's the one should people should subscribe to, and people should join that course, because in these topics especially, the only thing that needs to be cleared is the basic definitions, and also the importance of guru parampara. Like I have never criticized publicly. Publicly, I purposely say, because sometimes to my students I share, but publicly I've never criticized any guru till date, or anyone in. I have criticized the tendencies, I've criticized the philosophy, but not person. So I've stayed away from that, because that's not the way parampara teaches. And people think that paramparas are dead. No, paramparas are never dead. Paramparas, in fact, are bigger today than before, ever before. It's almost, I would say, that of 7.5 billion people, 400 million people will be in parampara today. So the only way we can reach out is to increase those kind of sessions, because that's where people change their heart. And my plan was, and I purposely use the word was, is that we train teachers, and then they go out and they earn money also from that, their from what they teach, because coaching is a big money turner everywhere, including US, including any other continent today. And then they spread the knowledge through that training, because their YouTube channel, we can only talk about 10%, 15%. Everything becomes debatable, and that's not how you learn anything. You have to first learn the basics and then move on those basics. So that's what I feel, and I have tested it also. That's the only thing which grows. Like all the students in USA, but people who are hosting right now from Stanford, now they have also gone to the course. And the only difference between them and the others is that they actually take it upon, like every day the show is live. Like 3 years it's been consistent, not a single day break. And one more thing I'll say, some people accuse me why I bring the Indian faces to American audience, because that's what we're trying to say. I don't want to learn from, and Americans also don't want to learn from a convert. Like you would not like to learn Hinduism from a convert to Hinduism. Some places India may be reverse also, is a skin disease. But an American will never want to learn from a American convert to Hinduism. So when they see a brown face speaking about their culture, that's more trustworthy, because that's the culture come from. So that's the whole point in bringing Indian views to American audience. And then Americans need to talk to amongst themselves. We don't want to tell them, they should talk amongst themselves about Mahabharat and Ramayana.
Okay. So I think almost the time is there, but one last question. Uh, your journey from where you began when you were 6 years old, you lost your father, and then your journey gradually started, and you've grown over the years, and you will, in the coming time, you will. So, what do you have to say? What is that you would like to talk about, or maybe from your end, you would like to give to the society?
I think the biggest gift society can give is, so the situations change for everyone as Kali Yuga progresses. And today, the mental disease is the biggest, the tensions, the what do you call it, the stress is the biggest killer for families also. And families, like within families, also collapse happens, because there is a stress on, people do not say it, but that's what happens. The financial strain actually destroys. The biggest gift I can say is that you need something more solid, examples, because after a certain time you have to study yourself. You cannot get motivational speeches don't help. They stay with you for a few minutes when you heard it, and after you had the next meal after the motivation speech, it's also digested, so nothing
Yes.
remains. Okay. So in order to be consistently motivated, the only recourse for me personally is Mahabharata and Ramayana. Every single, even though, when I write these books, they are almost the original Sanskrit in simple English language for Americans and Western audience, and also Indian now. Nobody likes the British English. The Caucasian British English is only good for the beer pubs in UK. So now so when you connect them and give them a twist, like, is it possible like this? Can you see like this? Now you start learning yourself. See, so you are yourself best teacher, but without guru is not possible. You need a guide. You need a person, and in the guru's position in our culture is very high. Whether it's a shiksha guru or a diksha guru, in fact, shiksha guru is respected more than even the diksha guru sometimes. So understanding the guru parampara and not rejecting it, like some people they say, why should I follow parampara? I can search Google. I said, you can even become a doctor by Google, but nobody will come to you as a patient because you're a doctor of Google. So same way, same logic applies to this knowledge also. That you cannot become a doctor of Adhyatma or become a Sanatani Yuddha or Sanatani Guru just by speaking and reading from Google and Wikipedia. You need to be
Yes.
studying under a guru, and same principle which works everywhere else works here. So the mental
Experience it yourself.
experience and also guru, because the physical guru is needed for you to teach you,
Yes.
and someone you need to follow. Like sometimes what happens is you may follow a guru, and after some time the Paramatma is actually your main guru, Chat Guru, and suddenly you will see that you're gaining more. But don't disrespect that guru, that he has done the job for which he brought you at one point. Then, so people make a mistake. Okay, I'm rejecting him. I'm going to work against him now. The moment you do that, the next path goes out. You will not be able to go further because Paramatma is also observed you. So you will be failed in any case. So that faultness is there. But Mahabharat, Ramayana, and Bhagavad Puran, these are the only three books I have read in detail. Now I'm getting into other ones for my new book. But the one message is very simple. Yudhishthir and Pandavas never criticized anybody, any guru, and they never compared also. Even though Yudhishthir asked the same question from different people. So these texts, my books, will actually, and Dr. Nalapa told me, will serve as a guide for next 100 years because I connected them to Mahabharata and Ramayana. So, so the mental disease and the mental fatigue or the stress, they really get removed from these ones, and this motivation stays permanent. It doesn't, like, life can go up and down, but if you are people, it's a very common thing. If you're staying on this path, you materially gain as well as you gain spiritually.
Yes. Thank you so much, Aditya ji. And your journey, may you continue with your beautiful journey, and may you continue to, also share this knowledge with everybody. Because I would say there are people who will, who might want help from you to give them a vision and an exposure to a more simple way of adapting to these things. So thank you so much, and I hope we continue having you with us, and we'll continue having more discussions with you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.